My name is Jerry Adams, and until recently, I was quite content with my life. I have been married to Betsy for nearly 28 years. We are both 55 years old and have a grown daughter named Amy. Amy is married to Jim, a good man. They've been married for 3 years and are expecting their first child. A quick history lesson about Betsy and me. We met in college, dated, but were both focused on our studies and not really close. Then we started dating and discovered we were very compatible. 18 months later, we got married, and 2 years after that, we were blessed with the birth of Amy. She is a wonderful and very intelligent girl. Betsy and I both have good jobs. Betsy has been teaching for 25 years, and I work in the finance department of a large company. We primarily work for the government, and I oversee costs and comply with all the rules related to government projects. I have a team of 4 and have been in business for 31 years. This story begins in the summer when my wife doesn't have to work. Once a month, she and 3 or 4 close friends meet for dinner, or sometimes just gather at someone's home. Most of these meetings are just a chance for them to have fun. Sometimes they go to a bar, listen to music, and if invited, they dance. I never suspected anything because my wife rarely came home late or drank too much. This all started about 3 years ago, when Betsy and I became empty nesters. We both love our daughter very much, and I thought we might rejuvenate our love a bit as we got older. We were not as sexually active as before, but we still usually had dinner at least once a week, sometimes alone and sometimes with another couple. I thought we were content and happy in our relationship, at least I thought so. I came home that evening after having lunch with my friend Harold. We sometimes have dinner together when our wives meet up. I had finished eating and was on my way home. Saw traffic, so I parked on the corner and walked home. As I passed by the side gate leading to the back porch, I heard joyful laughter and thought they must have drunk some wine. I smiled and heard Stephanie, Betsy's closest friend, say she loves her husband Sam, but he's old and overweight and hardly able to stand up. She said that sometimes she just needs a little love, and she has a good vibrator to enjoy herself without having to pamper her husband. She continued, saying that when he's having a hard time, he can only endure about a minute, so she told others his nickname is now 1 Minute Man. Everyone burst into laughter. I felt embarrassed for Sam because he comes to our house and is a good person. True, he is a bit overweight, but Stephanie isn't exactly petite either. Generally, she's quite pleasant, but I have never heard her talk about her husband like that before. I was surprised and felt sorry for Sam. I didn't go into the room because I wanted to hear what the others would say. Then Maggie spoke up, saying her husband, Harold, was entirely different. He was fine with intimacy and interested, but she was not very satisfied with his size. She said she could hardly feel anything, and after 3 children, she needed something bigger. Everyone laughed and asked how big. Maggie said about 10 centimeters. Then Stephanie said no, asking how firm and big it was. Maggie laughed and said it was firm, and they should call him Teeny Weeny. Stephanie agreed, and the whole room erupted in laughter. Stephanie told Maggie she could borrow her vibrator anytime she wanted, and she added that in the cold weather, she wondered if he could find that little thing. I stood there, shocked, hearing all these women speaking very personally about their husbands. Harold is a good friend, and I felt extremely sorry for him while they all laughed. I was glad that my wife was silent. At least I had a wife who respected others. Then it was Erica's turn. I hardly knew anything about her husband, Ali, but he seemed like a decent person. She said she was going through menopause and didn't care, but her husband was still desirous. So sometimes he would just ask permission to satisfy himself in front of her, and she would help him. She enjoyed making him behave like a teenager, mocking him when he was excited and teasing him. She called him Blue Balls Boy. All the women laughed, and I heard my wife laughing too. Then it was her turn. Come on, ladies, let's admit it. We all married older men, and they are really quite pathetic. Stephanie, of course, had to comment. Betsy, what should we call Jerry? What's his nickname?" I was completely silent and waited for her to speak. She giggled and said, "I think little hard-on sounds quite right." Everyone laughed. I was shocked. Over the years, my wife had never said anything like that to me. I never forced myself on her, and sometimes when she was tired, I left her alone and just kissed her. I don't remember ever bothering her. Did she really say that, or was it the truth? I recall the times we were intimate, sometimes only every 2 weeks or less, as she was going through menopause. I never heard her complain about me. I just stood there, heart pounding. I felt angry and hurt, not knowing what to do. Then Stephanie, who seemed to be the ringleader, said, "We, girls, are quite naughty too. We should start going to this new club. Let the young guys dance with us. If our guys can't satisfy us, at least we can allow the boys at the club some freedom." The others laughed and said it was a good idea. Now I wonder what's really happening at the bar. Most of the time, Betsy comes home not drunk or excited, and usually just takes a quick shower and goes to bed. I was still awake one day, and I asked her how she was doing, whether she danced or not, and if she was a good dancer. She laughed and said that she had something better at home. Ridiculous. Now I wonder if she was being groped, but I didn't notice anything standing outside the door. They clinked their glasses together and said yes, they should go out more often. I just stood there. Everyone continued to laugh and drink. Erica raised a toast to the man of the moment, teeny weeny, blue balls boy, and little hard-on. Everyone raised their glasses. I felt disgusted. Do they do this every time they get together? Finally, Erica said, "You know, we are all married, and we should be happy because they are all good fathers, provide for the family, and even though they have their shortcomings, they are still ours." I hoped sobriety had returned, but clearly it hadn't. Yes, they are good fathers, but sometimes we need more. Trying it out with a young guy would be fun. Then there was a silence, and no one spoke. It was quite late, and Erica said, "We have to get back to our old men." I climbed over the back gate and headed towards my car before anyone left. I was so angry that I knew I had to calm down before going home. I drove around the neighborhood and stopped at the park. I decided to walk a little to cool off my anger. I remembered what I had heard. I thought all those women were gentle and kind, and it shocked me. Do I really have a problem? I had put on a few extra pounds, but I was still healthier than any of those women. I'm not a handsome man, but neither am I strong. They are all a bit overweight, and while they may be attractive, I don't think many young guys would chase them. I wondered if I should tell my wife about what I heard, if I should sneak in to see them the next time they go to the bar. The more I thought, the more I realized that I love Betsy, but the disrespect I heard tonight really made me angry and hurt. Is she too foolish to think that it wouldn't hurt me? How would she feel if I spoke disrespectfully about her to her friends' husbands? It was getting dark, and I went home. As I drove into the driveway, everyone had left. I went through the back door and into the kitchen. Betsy had finished cleaning up. She turned around when I entered and said, "Hello, love, how was your day?" I looked at her as if I didn't recognize this woman. I wanted to scold her, but I just stood there, saying nothing. "Love, what's wrong? You seem upset." "I just had a bad day and I'm very tired. I thought you were going to have dinner with Harold. What happened?" "Harold's fine. I just had a bad day too. My head hurts like it's being split open. I think I'll take a bath, read a bit, and go to sleep." Betsy hurried over to embrace me. I stood there, tired and emotionless. She kissed me on the cheek. I pulled away from her and walked off. "Do you need anything? Can I help with anything?" "No, I'm fine. Just really tired." I took a bath and jumped into bed. She looked into the bedroom and saw me reading. "Love, if I can help, just let me know. I love you." I just nodded. I took a few sleeping pills and eventually drifted off to sleep. I remember Betsy crawling over to hug me, but I pretended to be asleep. She rolled over and fell asleep too. On Saturday morning, I woke up early and decided to go for an early bike ride. Betsy was still asleep, so I went out wanting to ride for about an hour. Usually, I only bike for about 30 minutes, and that's enough to keep fit. But now I decided I wanted to build up my endurance. When I returned, Betsy was having breakfast. I started to sweat and went back to the bathroom. "Jerry, I'll make breakfast for you. What would you like to eat?" "I'm going to shop with Amy for maternity clothes." "You're all right. I'll just have some toast and coffee." "Have a great day." When I came down for breakfast, she had already left. I was glad she was gone. Now I could think calmly about what to do. I was angry when I realized that I needed to find out more about the bar visits. One of my assistants, Dan, 32 years old, has been working for me for about 5 years. As I remember, my wife only met him once. Maybe he could follow her without arousing suspicion. We had a landline, and I kept thinking about turning it off and only using mobile phones. I would monitor the home phone too. Maybe I could gather some information to track calls. I spent the whole day looking through her emails because she never keeps them secret. I looked through about 2 years of activity and found nothing suspicious. I kept wondering why she didn't delete the old emails. Now I'm glad she didn't. Around 5 o'clock, I heard her car drive home. She burst into the room saying they had a great day, found something for Amy. I was happy because I love my daughter very much and she and her husband need our help. Betsy kept talking, and I just sat there, nodding. Eventually, she said she would eat the leftovers from last night's gathering for dinner. This snapped me back to reality, and I felt angry again. I tried not to show it, but she noticed my silence. "Love, can you tell me what's bothering you?" "I'm fine. It's just work. And I hope things will get resolved soon." She kissed me as I was clearing the dishes and began to clean the dining table. I had long realized that Betsy was a better cook, but at least I could clean up. She had a bit of wine and sat at the table while I washed the dishes. "Betsy, are you happy?" "What is happiness?" "Certainly, yes. What about you?" "Yeah, but sometimes you seem distant. Do you enjoy going out with the girls?" This was her chance to say something like, "Yes, I enjoy going out with friends. We have a lot of fun because we're the same age and have similar interests." "When you go out to listen to music, do you dance with others?" She suddenly looked up and smiled. "Sometimes people ask me to dance, and yes, I do dance. It's all harmless, and I never let them get too close." "Are you jealous?" "The young guys, do you ever feel a bit worried?" "Oh, Jerry, I think you're jealous. You don't have to worry about that, my love. I'm curious because 4 or 5 attractive women sitting together can attract a lot of men. Do you slow dance with them when they ask?" "Jerry, what's going on?" "You know, I would never let anyone get too close." "Do the other girls dance as well? If any of them do something you find inappropriate, you would tell me, right?" Betsy looked at me strangely and said, "Jerry, I don't think any of those ladies would do anything bad. You know all of them. They would never do that." I pondered and said, "I have an idea. Why don't we have a picnic and invite them along with their husbands?" She just shrugged and said, "I think they are all busy." "Oh, I was just asking. When are the girls gathering again?" "Jerry, I wanted to talk to you about this. Stephanie has a house by the lake, and she thought we could go there next weekend. Stephanie wants to invite just the wives, since you guys are always busy." I turned back and looked at her. "When were you going to tell me?" "I was going to talk about it last night, but you weren't feeling well." "When will you be going?" "We plan to leave Friday morning and come back Monday evening, right on July 4th. We usually have a party on the 4th of July. Are you planning to miss it?" "No, I'll be back in time for the fireworks." "You'll be missing everything else. Amy and Jim usually visit us." Betsy looked at me and realized I was disappointed. "Jerry, I'll make sure to make it up to you when I get back. Sometimes we just need a little break." "I understand." Then I left, went to my office, and started to think that she rarely goes away. And now, after hearing all the comments from the girls about needing something more, I began to harbor bad suspicions. I wonder what's really going on. Later, Betsy entered my office. Jerry, you're not mad at me, are you? No, I just want you to tell me everything. By the way, who's going? Stephanie, Maggie, Erica, and Teresa. She works with Stephanie and is her best friend. I didn't know Teresa, but I wanted to know more about her. Is Teresa our age, and is she married? I think she's about our age, but she's divorced. Great, my wife wants to sneak away for a few days to have fun with some women. And I don't know what's going on. It's strange that you suddenly want to spend more time with your friends. I hope we can spend time together because I'm also off on Monday. That's wonderful, love, but this is the only time we can all get together. I promise you, and I will do more things together before summer ends. As the week went by, I could see my wife getting excited about the upcoming trip. I was angry. I'll try one more time and see her reaction. Love, why don't I come with you on Friday evening and leave on Monday morning? You still get time away from your husband, but we can also spend time together. Oh my God, Jerry, what's with you? We just need some women's time. Fine, you have the time, but you wouldn't like it if I wanted to go golfing with my friends over the weekend. That's because it's too expensive, and I don't like being alone at home. Love, try to understand that you're acting like a child. Well, this is the last time I try. Maybe she's right. Women need their own time. I've never worried about Betsy before, but the conversation I overheard makes me worry more. I'll try to find out more. I took her phone while she was showering and tried to unlock it. She had secured it. She never locked her phone before. I need to come up with a plan. We have nearly identical phones, so I take her phone to the company and leave mine behind. Dan is our IT expert, and I ask him if he can help me unlock her phone. He works on it for a while, and I give him all the possible password combinations I can think of. Finally, he finds the right one and unlocks it. I go through her messages, trying to find something I can use. I find a lot of information. Dan tries to link her messages to my home email. He told me that he really appreciated it and was glad to help. It seems that Stephanie is the ringleader of this group. First, they will go to her cabin, and they plan to meet some guests, with Teresa organizing the event. The more I read, the angrier I got. My wife is very excited. Only Maggie thinks it's a bad idea, saying that if the husbands found out, they would be furious. Stephanie just dismisses her, saying it will be fun, and if nobody knows, there's no harm. My wife agrees. Erica says she's thrilled and can't wait. I checked as many emails as I could. When I got home, my wife asked me if I had mistakenly taken her phone. I said yes. She blushed and asked why I had her phone. That's private. You shouldn't be looking. Damn it, Jerry. I looked at her like she was crazy. I realized it was her phone, and since she had recently locked it, I couldn't read it. Clearly, she was doing personal things she didn't want her husband to see. What the hell is going on? Betsy, it's nothing. You just don't like me looking at your personal stuff. Betsy, do you have something to hide? Of course not. On Tuesday night, I couldn't sleep well. I decided to call my daughter and see if she knew anything. My wife and Amy talk almost every day. I called her and asked if her mother had told her about her trip. Amy said yes and seemed very happy. I asked if she knew any details. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Maybe she's just a bit different because of the baby coming soon. Love, you're right. We both can't wait. Betsy came home and immediately realized I wasn't happy. Love, you know I love you, right? It's just a short trip, and I'll be so happy to be back on Monday. I smiled and said I hoped so. On Thursday, I woke up early and went to work. I decided to check her messages. Stephanie kept reminding the girls that it would be fun, but she didn't say what they were going to do. Teresa was the only one arranging everything. I went to talk to Dan again and showed him some emails. I was curious if there was a way to access other emails. Dan looked at the letter and asked me, "Who is Teresa?" "I don't know. She works with Stephanie." A broad smile appeared on his face. She's my sister. She just organized a bachelorette party for a friend getting married. And she told me that a woman at the company wanted a stripper for some friends of hers. Teresa told her she could book someone for them. But for what occasion? Her friend just told her it was a bachelorette party over the weekend. Dan probably noticed I went pale. Jerry, don't worry. I'll find out. Now I know what's happening. And it explains everything. My wife is going to have a stripper, and now I want to know how far it will go. One thing is going to a strip club, but it's completely different at a private party. I continued to read Betsy's messages and emails. Betsy had mentioned that I was starting to get angry. Stephanie wrote that, "Tell Mr. Hard-On after this weekend that he needs to treat you better, because you won't need him if he doesn't know how to behave." This made me so angry I wanted to hit her. I hastily made plans. Amy called me after lunch and said she had spoken to her mother. She said her mother just needed to get away. Amy asked her why this weekend was so important that she would miss the family gathering on the 4th of July. Betsy said she just needed to be with the girls and didn't want any worries. Amy also told her mother she thinks I'm feeling depressed and maybe she should stay home more. Her mother told her she needed this to happen, and she would make it up to me when she got back. On Thursday, I decided to call all the husbands first. I called Harold and asked if he had noticed Maggie acting strangely. He said she seemed anxious. He thought she might just be unwell, but she was very excited about the weekend. Dan called me back and had talked to his sister, Teresa. She had contacted a stripper who would perform at the party. This was the stripper Stephanie hired. I called the husbands and asked them to meet me on Friday evening, but not to tell their wives. Sam and Ali didn't know me well and said they just wanted to relax at home alone. Then I told them they might want to know more about what their wives will be doing. It was important for their marriages. In the end, they all agreed. I also told them to sneak a look at their wives' emails or messages to see what they were up to. They said they couldn't get into their wives' phones. On Friday morning, I woke up at 5:30. Betsy was sleeping, and I went to check her bag to see what she had packed. I didn't find anything unusual. I kept checking her emails and messages. Stephanie said she really wanted to see what Teresa had done, but she refused to tell others what it was. Betsy planned to leave at 8 o'clock. The trip only took about 2 hours, but they wanted to leave early to get sun as soon as possible. I took a day off, but she didn't know. I was having breakfast and finally heard the shower running. I usually leave around 8:30. I decided to leave early and left a note saying I had an early appointment. "My dear Betsy, I hope you will have a wonderful time with your friends. I know you are unhappy, and I think the reason is that you have closed yourself off to me. I'm sorry for not making you happy anymore, but I wish you would stay so we could reconnect. Lately, I have been feeling really sad, and I want to be close to you, because you always make me feel special. I have loved you for over 28 years. I just want you to be happy in the future. Your loving husband, Jerry." She began to worry when Stephanie texted that she would pick her up at 8. Betsy replied, "Stephanie, something's not right with Jerry. I'm afraid I can't go until I talk to him." Betsy, "Oh, come on. He's an adult, and he's probably just sulking because he's home alone for the weekend. I bet Mr. Hard-On is just feeling down." Betsy wrote, "Stop it, Stephanie. This is not funny, and I'm wondering if he thinks something's going on. I haven't been treating him well lately. I need to talk to him." "Okay, fine. I'll call Harold to see if he can find out anything. He's also leaving early in the morning." The women contacted each other and realized they couldn't get in touch with all their husbands. Stephanie texted everyone to get ready. "We are going this weekend no matter what. The husbands will be fine." I had planned for a few days. Now, everything depends on the husbands. Maybe they really are the old, fat, lecherous, and lazy men their wives say they are. It's never too late to save a marriage, or at least stop their wives from ending it. Harold and I talked a bit. When Ali and Sam showed up, everyone looked worried, and I told them that's how it should be. The reason I invited all of you here is because I have reason to believe our wives are going to break their marital vows this weekend. Can you all accept that? I told them the whole story about how I heard them talking about each one of us and how I hacked my wife's phone and found out what was going to happen, or at least what they planned to do. Sam, Ollie, and Harold were all angry. Suddenly, they were silent. I proposed my plan. We would get up on Saturday, go to the cabin, wait for the guests to arrive, and see what happens. We discussed and decided not to respond to any emails, calls, or messages. Let's keep the women in the dark. It will be hard, but we need to make them suspicious. We talked until late and agreed to meet again at 9 a.m. I had a restless night. I kept checking my phone, and my wife texted me about 20 times. At first, she was worried, but then she became angry and called me a spoiled child for trying to ruin her weekend with the girls. I went to bed and tried to sleep, finally falling asleep in the morning. I called my daughter, and she told me her mother had called and was very worried. Amy told her mother that they had invited me because her mother wanted to escape and have fun with the girls. Betsy hung up the phone. I checked our accounts as I usually do. I usually handle most of the accounts. I noticed that Betsy had withdrawn $500 for the trip. Now I knew what she was planning. I told the guys about the situation and told them to check their accounts. They did and found out that all the wives had withdrawn a significant amount of money. Sam, Allie, and Harold felt very embarrassed and angry at the disrespect each wife had shown them. I didn't want them to become violent, but I told them to hold their frustration until we confronted them. The time everything was going to happen was at 8 p.m., so we had to get there before 7 p.m. to not let the girls know. Teresa kept updating me after talking to Dan. Stephanie met with Teresa to see if she knew a good stripper for a girls' night. Teresa actually knew a stripper who worked with her. I relayed this information to my husband, who became even angrier. In fact, she took some pictures of a stripper she knew and showed them to Stephanie. She told me Stephanie was almost ecstatic. The stripper is a man in his late 30s, tall, handsome, and muscular. His package is big, and Teresa said that's what Stephanie wanted. Stephanie also asked if the man could do different things. For example, Teresa asked, Stephanie mentioned that they are all married to a bunch of old men and wanted to see what a hot young guy could do for 4 women. As Teresa told me about this, I began to see. Teresa told me that the others didn't know, but Stephanie suggested it would be very sexy and everyone would like it. The husbands were furious as we continued our conversation. Thankfully, we could prevent that, but the future with our wives looked bleak. I texted Teresa as we were getting close to see if everything was ready. She called me back a few minutes after she went outside. Teresa, we are very grateful for your help. You have opened our eyes, and it might save 1 or 2 marriages. I don't know, Jerry. I had a husband who was a failure and cheated on me, and when Dan mentioned your situation and knew I was working with Stephanie, I was happy to help. Stephanie told the others that a stripper would come. I really want to know the truth, especially my wife's reaction. I could tell Teresa didn't want to tell me, but finally she did. Jerry, I think your wife is being influenced by Stephanie and is being convinced to do things she normally wouldn't do. Teresa, please, tell me the truth. Did anyone admit to doing something when they went to the bar? It's hard to say, but they mentioned that some guys had kissed them and ran their hands over their bodies, but no one had sexual intercourse. As for your wife, she said a man had taken her hand and held it on his thing, and she said it was very big. Then she withdrew her hand and did nothing else. I see they know what's going to happen. Stephanie told them that if we like the big tool of a man, just wait and feel it. And then in action. He will entertain all of us, and maybe we can help him with that. I have to go. They think I'm talking to a stripper. Jerry, what she said and did isn't that bad. You understand. Stephanie is the bad one here. Thanks, Teresa, without you, we would be fools knowing nothing. Goodbye. When I told them what she said, they became angry. We were getting close to the cabin. We stopped and I, as the representative, would tell our wives about our decision. I texted Teresa that we would arrive in 10 minutes. She replied that it was good. They had just finished dinner. It was 7:30 p.m. The cabin was situated on a small hill, overlooking a beautiful lake. Sam told me it had been in his family for 3 generations. The cabin was rustic but beautiful, and the scenery was breathtaking. The nearest house was half a mile away. We walked down the dirt road and stopped a few hundred meters away. We got out of the car and walked towards the cabin. We could hear women talking. They must have been standing on the back porch overlooking the lake. Sam opened the front door, and all of us stepped inside. The wives hadn't seen us yet. They were sipping wine and chatting. Sam opened the back door, and the conversation stopped. All the wives turned around, faces pale. "Hello," Sam said with a smile. And they all stood in silence. Finally, Stephanie spoke up. "Sam, what the hell are you doing here? This is girls' weekend. Before you leave, come inside. I want you to meet some friends of mine. Ladies, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Blue Balls, Mr. Teeny Weeny, Mr. Hard On, and of course, Mr. 1 Minute. Right, sweetheart?" he asked, turning to his wife, Stephanie. Stephanie was speechless, which was great. I continued, "Please, sit down and relax. We need to discuss something." Betsy started to say something, but I cut her off. "No." She sat down and started to cry. Maggie looked as if she had seen a ghost, and Erica appeared to be suffering from PTSD. "We want to discuss one thing first, then you can talk." I turned to Teresa and said, "Wow, you must be Teresa, right? You're amazing. My wife says you're her age. How old are you?" Teresa feigned surprise and said, "I am clearly 34 years old. Your wife is either blind or lying, isn't she?" I winked. The women looked very anxious as it was about 7:50, and they thought a stripper would come. They were checking the clock. Finally, Erica regained her voice and said, "Let's go somewhere to eat." I laughed. "Nice try, Erica. I think the stripper will come at any moment. He has a big tool that all you ladies are waiting for." My wife started crying, and Maggie had been crying before that. Harold couldn't hold back anymore. "Maggie, you corrupt woman, how can you humiliate me in front of friends and talk about my size? I will buy you a baseball bat. It will make you happy." Then Ali added, "Erica, you're special. I've loved you for many years, and now I just see betrayal from you. Thank you for telling others that I need you. I don't just want a relationship, I want you, but not anymore. You talk about me like a weak, pathetic slave. Damn you." After that, Sam said, "Stephanie, you're disgusting. The actions of most of these women are triggered by your own self-esteem issues. You're the instigator of most of what has happened. I thought I loved you, but you've made it impossible. After our divorce, you can continue your life as a corrupted old woman, seeking bigger sizes in men. Oh, and indeed, your butt looks big in those pants. Honestly, if you were any bigger, they should tie ropes to you so you can parade in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Finally, dear Betsy, you also ruined everything behind the scenes. You lied and intentionally hurt me for fun. I regret loving you for 28 years and finding you attractive. Maybe you should go back to the bar and feel the penises of some guys. Clearly you like that. Oh, and there's no stripper. We stopped that as soon as we heard about it. Don't worry about how we knew, but we did. Darling, hope the $500 you took out of our account can be used to find somewhere else to stay, or maybe you can go find a stripper. That's enough. I wish you a happy life." The wives followed us out onto the street and tried to explain something, but we didn't hear anything. Before leaving, we deflated 2 of Stephanie's tires. She won't be able to find anyone to fix it until tomorrow or later, as it's the end of the week. Teresa had left while we were talking to our wives. We all went home. My wife kept calling and emailing, all lies. She wrote that she was very sorry, that it was just a big joke. In a voice message that I listened to, she said, "Jerry, I'm so sorry, but all the women were just joking around. We realized that it was distasteful. I would never be with someone else. It was just entertainment, and I was wrong not to tell you beforehand. I love you so much and could never replace you." I didn't respond. I went to my daughter Amy's house and had a fun picnic with them. I told her that her mother had hired a stripper for their entertainment and I didn't trust her. She seemed sad and shocked to hear her mother did this. When her mother called, she asked, "Did you enjoy the stripper?" Her mother said it was just a joke and she should never talk about it. Our wonderful wives were able to come back home on July 4th. I met with Amy and Jim. Finally, Betsy also arrived. "Jerry, Amy, and Jim, I'm very sorry for what I've done, and I want you to know that I love you very much and will do everything in my power to make things better." Amy told her mother, "I'm very disappointed and can't believe I thought this was acceptable. I haven't seen a stripper since I was in college." "Really?" Jim said, "Maybe you should tell me about it. I didn't know this about my wife." "Jim, that was before I met you, and we were just a group of young girls, not old ladies like my mother." Betsy cried and went home. I went home after the fireworks, and clearly Betsy was too tired and went to sleep. This was fine with me as I had moved my clothes into Amy's old room. The next morning, I had to go to work and left the house before Betsy left her room. At the office, Dan asked me what had happened. "Tough, but I'm glad we at least prevented more damage," I replied. "Do you think you can salvage the marriage?" "I hope so, but I'm not sure. I still love that woman." Betsy actually wrote to me asking when I would come home and that she would cook dinner for me. "We really need to talk." I told her I would come home at the usual time. When I walked into the house, everything around me smelled wonderful. She came close to me and said, "I miss you and am sorry for everything. Can we talk after dinner?" "Okay." Dinner was silent, but the food was delicious. I loved the way she cooks. When everything was over, she excused herself to the living room, taking dessert and wine with her. I think she was trying to do everything she could. "Jerry, I'm sorry about the weekend. We never intended to do anything with the stripper. I didn't even know about it until we got there." "Betsy, when did you know about this? Why didn't you refuse, or at least tell Stephanie it was wrong?" I had thought about that, but since she planned everything and it was her cabin, we all felt like she was in charge. "Tell me more about your trips to the bar. How many men have you touched, and how many have touched you?" "No, I wasn't touched and I didn't touch anyone. That didn't happen. According to a friend of mine, a guy placed my hand on his private part, and I said it was big. That's not true. He might have accidentally touched me, but I didn't feel or play around with any man. You've been thinking a lot these past 2 weeks, and you're very unhappy, as you know. You don't care when I'm hurt, and your lack of respect is disgusting. Your conversation sounds like hookers talking about their clients, not about husbands they should love. Where did this come from? Have you always spoken ill of us?" "Girl, that's women's talk, and we just say different things, most of which are exaggerated. You know it sounds crude, but we were drinking and foolish. How would you feel if we, the husbands, talked about personal things and laughed at you girls? Would any of you be called fat? You would be angry, and you know it. This is unacceptable and disrespectful. I'm so sorry, Jerry. I was wrong, and we shouldn't have done this or planned a women's weekend. I really don't know why Stephanie wanted to do this. You know why? She doesn't respect her husband and convinced the others to do the same. Jerry, it's not like that. I've never loved anyone like I love you. Please, I promise to make amends, and I will. No one is more important to me than you. Okay, we'll see, but first you have to prove it to me. I've moved all my stuff into Amy's old room. It's still quite cozy. I want you to see a psychologist, and my little guy won't bother you. I didn't think our marriage was this bad, and you were this unhappy. I love you and wonder where you lost your respect for me. You made me out to be an old, lecherous, crude, and disgusting man. Am I really that bad? Girl, I love you, and I'm not disgusting. You made a stupid mistake and took me for granted. You were wrong. I don't think I need counseling. Think about it. You let Stephanie tell you what to do, and I'm worried about her influence on all you girls. That's why I think counseling is necessary." She was shocked and said she would do whatever I wanted. I could see that she didn't agree with me, but I felt that she needed it. I told her I would go with her if it helped, but she needed to find someone to help her. All the husbands decided that the women were right about one thing. We needed to get back into shape. We went to the gym and worked hard on ourselves. I gained strength and felt better, and my daughter thinks I now look handsome. But does it really matter for a 56-year-old man? I think this is the situation. 2 marriages are in counseling, and 1 is nearly over. Stephanie and Sam are about to divorce. Stephanie has left and is living with her sister in another state. Sam is a bit sad, but he has started dating a little. No one cares about Stephanie. Erica and Ali have started counseling and are trying to get back to how they were before the intervention. Erica is more concerned about her husband, and Ali has become more assertive. He wants to make sure no one thinks he is dependent. I think they will succeed. Maggie and Harold, she's the only one who thought what they were planning would be a problem. She tells everyone how important her husband is to her and lets everyone know that he's actually the hottest lover since Casanova. I think my best friend, Harold, has gotten over his embarrassment. This, of course, leaves me. We still live in the same house, and Betsy is still in counseling. Technically, we're still married, but I have a new love in my life. My granddaughter, Brittany. Sometimes Betsy seems remorseful, but who knows? Annie wants me to give her mom another chance. Betsy and I have started to have some closeness. The sex is okay, but I want to feel the passion again. She tells me she really needs me and loves me, but time will tell. I've started to feel better about myself when some women I meet at the gym seem more interested in me after I tell them my story. Let's wait and see.